Oh, she picked up the Annie there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's deep hard. You're joining? Let's
I'm good for mine. You really freaking crap.
Oh,
But,
so you're with Corey.
yeah, we're all,
Oh, I.
we all assigned different.
Everybody's doing fine.
Great. Chris, wanna take roll call? All right. Mr. Alston?
Present.
Joyce Brown? Julia?
Oh.
Ray Dawson?
Here.
James Harrison? Okay. Sharice Martin? Present. Johnny Mayfield?
Here.
Chrissy Merritt? Here. Mark Hill?
Here.
Henry Wilson? Present. Great. Tristan? Larcella?
Right here.
Patrick Smith?
I'm here.
Thank
As you guys know, I'm in the back because the back door is open. We locked someone in the last time.
Claire Russell?
Here.
Mike Dobbs?
Here.
And we have. And then, Lucia Bell? Hyman Veron? Ivan Cortez?
Yeah.
Leona Kiptogi? James Kennel? Marius Raymond? Alicia Rivera? Same as right here. Vera Rubio? Amelia Zupila?
Okay, and is there a motion to approve the minutes from December 3rd, 2025?
Moving to the minutes, can you give next step that is presented?
There a second?
Second, that.
They speak a little louder, this, they behind this is a little noisy.
Before we vote, I would like to point out that I forgot to change the footer on all the pages, like other than a couple. So I'll be changing that before I submit. Thank you.
So there's a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And then I just would like to make the recommendation, when making a motion or seconding, if we could say our names first, it helps with, meeting minutes. So that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Any public comment? No, okay. We have a couple guest speakers today. It looks like to start us off, we have Chris Davis with our Neighborhood Connections Program Coordinator.
Yeah, well, thanks y'all for being on the agenda. My main reason for asking me on the agenda is that I'm working a lot with the neighborhood associations and we're trying to think of creative ways of how to get more people involved, how to get more people engaged. And one of the things was doing something around public safety. What events, what things can we do that could engage more people to learn more about public safety, what's going on in the community. We thought about doing like community discussions around public safety. So I'm kind of asking what kind of brainstorming ideas do you all have in the public safety advisory committee of some events that we could do around public safety to get more engagement. We're hoping for younger families and people of color are our main target points for this year. So I'm going to see how we can get more people engaged in those groups. So. That's what I
First, it's people once.
Real quick, are you gonna be involved in, the events that we already have sort of trying, Summerfest is always the highlight, right? Doing like maybe a, neighborhood association group board, so as people come up, they can see where they live and what might be available there. And of course, we would invite you out to all of our events, our fall safety day and that sort of thing. Love to have you there and get you, a space that you could, see more people, just FaceTime with the community and highlight where you're served and what you're doing. So they're just, I can get you our list of events of what we're doing as fire department. And you're always welcome. And you're doing great things.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've done So for Summerfest last year, we had a board up and with some people, we teamed up with the Parks Department to do, some, like what's going on in your community, some information, data points, things from there. But we'll definitely do something, they'll definitely do something this year. But they'll definitely do something this year for Summerfest. Yeah. But we're thinking about doing an event specifically around public safety that might, people could come to and hear about what's going on locally, and then they're having more community discussions around what could be better in the community. And hopefully that could be a driver to get into the neighborhood association.
Chris, you might also consider whether representatives from this group to be part of National Night Out. We get together with our business folks all around like with, that's a good opportunity to promote, for neighborhood association. Get folks involved.
Yeah.
Regarding the neighborhood association list, you have given us this one that tells us when 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think here we're counting 8 neighborhood associations, like when their meetings are. Is this one still good where it talks about Pelican Woodbrook meeting at 6:30 the second Tuesday of the month?
Yes.
Okay, maybe I'll just confirm this with you. Youth council too, any hours that you guys put in, whether you want to attend a neighborhood association meeting. Can you give us your hours for attendance so we can award you letters for your volunteer? And then I would really, really like to encourage a member of PSAC, any of us, maybe a couple of us make it attend the same meeting. If we can do our best to attend for 2026, a meeting, or maybe there's like a specific neighborhood association that's closer to your home. And if you could be like the regular face, again, one of our main goals is to be the bridge between neighborhood associations and the community and town council. So I could really use some help attending some neighborhood association meetings.
I will get signed up.
I'm gonna have Chris send this list out that talks about when each neighborhood association meeting is. And then that way you can be in attendance for whatever works out for your schedule.
Sorry, do you want to maybe coordinate, if you guys have awareness of who laws sending, who's fire sending, and then maybe just sort of a familiarity and partnership, so if a member, standing member from public safety is going, they at least know, who from fires there and law enforcement.
That would be great.
More welcoming.
I do think it is a history of posting, if we're gonna do a presentation or address a specific topic, that's usually posted in the city mailers.
How do we send it for a city mailer?
Well, it's the weekly email that comes out through communications.
You can do it on the website or you can do it through 301. It'll show up like right on the main page to sign up for a weekly update.
Okay,
James and Sergeant Porch are working on that. And I think that's basically an example of how to negotiate traffic for part of it. And that might be something that would be the topic. I don't know where that on.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So once we decide what meeting you want to go to and we send that out, do we just respond back to you to let them know like when we're coming, or are you at every meeting?
I'm at every meeting.
Okay.
So depending if you want to introduce speaker in, you don't have to let me know. If you want to speak, then yes, like put you on the agenda. But yeah, no, you're just going to go just so you're there, and maybe when you introduce yourself, just make sure you say you're part of this group and what it's about, because most people don't know, most people at those meetings don't know that it exists. So I think it might be good just to say, hey, this is what we do, why we're important.
and Chris,
different neighborhoods, they have the same meeting time,
Oh, they're spread out, so they're very spread. So,
Have you got an update on North Lakewood, I guess we'll call it? Oak Brook and that.
so Oak Brook, I'm planning to do a, planning meeting for Oak Brook, and it was supposed to be this month, but we had to push it to March, so March 4th. For people that are interested in being part of that planning committee. I have a few people that are interested, but with anything for people that really like want to come together and put on, find a location, do an agenda, figure out what the topics are in the community, so if you're free on March 4th at Oak Brook Elementary, we'll have a little meeting there.
How will you let me know right now? Okay.
So right now, it's in the weekly bulletin that goes out. And it's on the Neighborhood Connections website. And then I have like, from previous past, I have emails from a lot of people at Oak Brook, who were wanting to be engaged before, to come back. So
What time did you say that?
that will be at 6 o'clock
Now,
on the 4th.
they are
March 4th.
aware that it's not just Oak Brook? Or are they planning on just having Oak Brook, because they've got the eastern side of the north end also?
Yes, that's a different neighborhood association. That's under, this cluster. It's a cluster neighborhood association. They already exist. They've already started, but they just started the end of last year. On that side by Walmart. So,
No, what I'm talking about is you've got Creekside Oaks and Country Place and all those places that again go to the west to Oak Brook, but all in that northern end. We used to all be part of that.
yes, it used to be that big block.
Right.
Now it's separated in two. So it's like Oak Brook on this side, and then the rest is like cluster. And I think there's like a little strip of it that's like.
And so they're meeting.
Yes, they already have a meeting. They're meeting. They haven't started the meeting this year. But they are meeting. It's in that list, so they are meeting there.
So it's called Custer.
Cluster.
Footnotes, got Custer and Clover Park.
Dow, yeah, it used to be called Dower, and then it's like, that didn't make sense. So that portion is.
And then Chris, to Dog's point, how could we communicate with the rest of PSAC on who's gonna be in attendance at meetings? How can we coordinate that?
They can let me know. I think they can email you directly too, if that's easier, I think, way.
You email me directly, or yeah, if you just want to schedule.
If you let me know, then I can.
I've been on phone.
Forward it to Chris.
Oh,
Okay,
Past that,
yes,
I want to do a shameless pitch. Since you go to those places and they don't know who you are, and later on this agenda, there's a discussion about PSAC apparel. You're harder than this way. They won't think you're an undercover cop or whatever. But I've been pitching this for 10 years, just like in my every 2 years thing. I discontinue it after I see it. But I did gather some information from the conversation. But you might think about it, I mean, young people, you go out here and you show up at that place, I see somebody that has some markings there that a little bit about what you do, and some 77-year-old gray-haired guy, really white hair, comes in and says, well, how's your life? What's your troubles? What do you think about the city? And it doesn't legitimize much.
Ray, I got you on the agenda.
I saw that. I think it's shameless plug in advance, because that would be topical here, talking about showing up in public and not knowing who you are.
Okay, thank you. We have another guest speaker, Sergeant Frazier. Wait.
Corner.
I don't know if we could find that perfect. I was on. I was waiting for the finishing thing. Yeah, I know it's awesome. Anyways, I'm John Frazier. I'm Sergeant for the local police department. I supervise day shift patrol, but I'm also in charge of our Marine Service Unit. Our Marine Service Unit consists of, we have a safe boat, which we purchased and refurbished. We spent about $150,000. There was an old Coast Guard escort vessel that served in the Great Lakes, and there was somebody brought it up to Alaska to hunt sea otters, and as you know, saltwater does things differently than freshwater, so we had to get some new engines and do some other things. But that is down at the boathouse in the Tillicum Boat Ramp, down there in Tillicum. We share a space with West Pierce Fire and Rescue. They have their boat there, and we have ours. Of course, we would respond to assist them in mutual aid if they need that. We use our boat to get over to Silcock Island if medical reasons or fire. They go out there and patrol sometimes and have assisted us with search and rescue things. Once again, there's a magical line that separates on American Lake, that separates City of Lakewood to Joint Base Lewis McCourt, which is federal property. City waters belong to the state of Washington, but there is a mutual agreement. We are really the main enforcement on American Lake. In the past, the JBLM MPs have been overwhelmed with other tasks, i.e. military operations, also civilians in an educational process and things like that. So their vote on the water has been hit and miss. So we cover the entire lake. We do a lot of education. Some people say, hey, no fun American Lake. I get nicknamed that, no fun American Lake. And the reason why is we have a high emphasis. We're out there and we're trying to educate people. As if you're not aware, a paddleboard is considered a vessel in the state of Washington. So, and there is movement to actually require life vests. And what we're seeing out, especially out in the sound or windy days, people don't use their ankle straps. Vessel gets away from them or the paddleboard, and they subsequently aren't wearing a PFD and they drown. So the state is actively looking at life vests for every vessel, regardless of your age. And the city of Lakewood has a special law. I say special law, specific to the city of Lakewood, 16 feet and under, regardless of your age, you have to wear a life vest. So we contact a lot of fishermen, contact other people, and this is where the education instead of enforcement. What we say is you're within the buoy markers, which are set 200 feet from shore. You have a life raft, you're out there with something, you don't have to have a life vest, but for some reason, if you have a paddleboard or you're in a boat, you need one on. So what we tell folks, if you're within shoreline, you can swim there, we're not bothering you. Or if you anchor, you're not required to have it on. So some of it is by law, they have to have it on. But when it's 85, 90 degrees out there, you're wearing a life vest, it gets really hot. And so people want to be cooler. So anyways, we just make contact to make sure they have the life vest on. Regarding search and rescue things that have happened out on American Lake, we average, historically, we've had drownings if everybody's in the swim areas and out in the open water fishermen. Highest rate of casualty is fishermen, because they're fishing people, I should say, sorry. But they're out there seasonal. They're out there every day, all the time, and so inclement weather. So we try to making sure that everybody has a vest on then, because we're not out there now. We're seasonal, basically mid-June, second week of September. We're really focused on Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. So if a vessel is sometime outside of that, it'd have to be specific, i.e. complaints. American Lake, there's a homeowner who's called in a number of times regarding some sea lure or jet skis, kids underage doing things. We try to identify the house, go knock on the door, and try to address it with the parents, saying, hey, when you're away, your kids are doing this. State of Washington jet ski license is different than the city of Lakewood. You have to be 16 years and older. So we'll stop kids out there who are younger on American Lake, and they said, I have a boater's education card. Doesn't work in the city of Lakewood. So that's an issue too. I have talked to people and I said the place to go is to parks, folks, and through the city of Lakewood to amend the law. As you know, sea-doos have changed. They're now 4-stroke. What used to be super, super loud and an issue is no longer. These are high performance vessels. But that being said, I only enforce what's there and try to educate people. Regarding the unit, there's 2 of us who are on Marine Service. We're also part of the Pierce County Metro Dive Team. So I carry all my dive gear for water rescue, things like that. So it's in my patrol car. We go to a drowning. There was a drowning last night down in Dock Street. We got the call. I didn't respond, some of the other folks did. Time into the water to get the person out was 33 minutes. The person as of last night was still alive. That's our goal. We've recovered bodies here in American Lake from, other things. why we're part of the Metro team, because it gives us a resource, so about 18 months ago, they got a grant for $260,000. You're just coming through the Congress in Strickland, is it? If I remember right, I'm saying her name right. But she gave us a grant fund through her congressional appropriations. So that piece of equipment, we can submerge that, set a pattern, it will literally underwater would do this entire room in a couple seconds. So then we can find the victim or whatever, and then we can do recovery. So we've gone up all the way up to Mount Rainier and assisted National Park Service recovering a soldier. We've been up in Bremerton, Kitsap County, everywhere across the state. So the unit's been around, it's got a lot of equipment, a lot of experience. So we have 2 Sea-Doos that are a little bit older, but they still work, they still function. We keep them here at the station. Those are what we use pretty much on Lake Steilacoom. The 2 lakes we enforce are American Lake and Lake Steilacoom. And the reason why we're not on Gravelly is where there is no public access. If there was public access and we could get our Sea-Doos on there, we would probably use our Sea-Doos to get out there. But you look at some of the other smaller lakes, there's people out there, they may swim or they may kayak and stuff like that. We have another smaller rigid or inflatable that we could potentially carry out there. It'd be a little bit difficult, but if we had to. So Sea-Doos, Lake Steilacoom, Captain Johnson lives out there, as he knows. I would just tell you, statistically, the issues that are associated in the past historically with Lake Steilacoom are the neighbors to your left or right of your residence. And what I mean by that is smaller lakes, they just don't get the volume of folks on their lake. So what we do is usually on shift, we'll have 4 people on a Saturday or Sunday. At some time during the shift, they'll break off. Those 2 officers will start at the beginning of their shift. They'll take the Sea-Doos and they'll go out of Lake Steilacoom, drive around. Quickly, messages get sent out. The cops are on the lake, and it's quiet. So it's not an effective use of my money. It's ultimately your money. But I think that it's we do a couple laps. We talk to some people, get those folks on an American lake where the volume is. If you go down there for entertainment, I don't know if anybody watches TikTok or YouTube videos, but where they show the docking and unloading of boats, you can go down there and get your own entertainment because we've had that in the past. The good news is we actually have fixed the North American Lake ramps. So last year we were down to 1. We had people losing their trailers, flipping off trailers, cars going into the water with the trailers, things like that. But it's a lot better now because it just got fixed. So I'm not saying it's going to be always, that's where we're at. So anybody have any questions? We're a very small unit. It's all done on overtime. Or sometimes on regular, if we get called out during the day, stuff like that. Yes, ma'am.
I do have some questions about Lake Steilacoom. So if you're out there on jet skis, that means you can't be out there at night, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what do people do if they see nighttime safety things going on?
So you could, I mean, my number, send an email. If you could specifically identify, i.e. it's coming from this dock, i.e. speed, let's after hours, not going the speed limit, right? You could clearly tell they're throwing, or they go out there and they have no navigational lights and things like that. So we can usually go down, we try to identify the house, knock on the door, saying, hey, this is what the law requires, things like that. It's not something you can report where I could issue a ticket. It's not exempt from that. I mean, I have to see the offense. That's what I'm saying. Some of it is people are aware and they just choose to do what they're going to do. I hate to say that. It's like saying we have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Some people want to drive 45 or 55 or 65. Sometimes we have to see it. That's the issue. But if it's a pattern, we start picking up, it's the same house.
So it's really difficult then when people come on the lake, put in their boat, do whatever they want to do for the day, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard.
Yeah, because realistically, we're never going to pull our safe boat out of American Lake to go up there.
Okay.
So if I pull 2 officers off a lake that has 90% of the usage to go up there to address an issue that may or not be there when we get there. That's the difficulty.
Right.
It really is. It's just
Yeah.
like any enforcement activity, So that's where we try to do the education component of this.
So with the city of, oh, I'm sorry, are there other?
You're okay.
Gonna keep-
Yes, sir.
So with the city doing their expansion of Edgewater Park, you know,
Yes.
they haven't completed it yet, or they've done a little bit, but, how do you see the city, you know, kind of, is that gonna be a factor in how much time is spent anywhere? Or like, is it ever helpful for the police just to be there at the park part, educating people as they're putting in, or kind of a presence there? You know, like you said, people disappear on the lake, but, you know, is that?
So I think the good thing about the development of the park is just the street direction, traffic mitigation, being able to see around the corner with not worrying about a car coming the other direction. Actually designated parking spots for those people who've just taken over other people's homes. As you know, there's a lot of people who've got signs, no parking here, no parking here, rocks and other things. So I think it develops that area, and the launch itself, i.e. the launch, the existing launch, the angle of that is really difficult. So you got, and all the tree hazards under the water. So it's gonna be pushed down to where that other house used to be. So I think some ways, it may invite more people to use the lake, which ultimately is what they want. Do I see, it's a hidden lake. It's not like American Lake, you go by and you say, that's a massive lake. I'm not saying you can't go over the interlocking bridges, but a lot of people don't even know there's a public access. You know, so it's a hard question to answer yet until it's all done. You know, once again, we will respond if we need to. And we've gone out there for drownings, after hours things, and we've actually used citizens' boats. So now that Captain Johnson's on the lake, if I needed to, I'd go to his house and wake him up and say, we're taking your boat. I'd be like pirates, but anyway, but no, if you live out there.
One last thing.
Yeah,
So is the city, like your unit and stuff, you're mostly concerned with the drownings and things of that nature? Or?
no, so American Lake, I'll just tell you the other thing, people, you get a boater's education, you can take the test online, we offer classes in the past. What the biggest issue on American Lake is you get, remember, 50 states plus people from overseas, they come on the lake, you can rent a boat, right? So it used to be Bill's Boat House, but there's still people that offer boats, private entities, they'll show up and they'll launch boats. They're supposed to give you a safety class and stuff like that, give you a piece of paper, and you're set free on this boat. And some people don't understand the concept. If you let off the gas, that boat's still moving, or that jet ski is still moving, or the direction of travel. So they're just going the other direction, and you're like, what are you doing? Can't you see all the boats are coming towards you? There should be a clue. But that being said, or they'll go out there and they don't have a flag, they're just pulling somebody on the ski, and they'll throw up a T-shirt or whatever, and then it's just education, enforcement, simple things. So we're out there stopping vessels to reduce the risk of a serious collision or a death.
John, can you speak to the boat inspections you guys do and how many years now?
So as we get state funding, so every time you buy your registration on your boat, you have that little sticker, goes to the end of June. And so we're out there, we have the boat ramps, we try to knock them out or on the water, and we just have a safety checklist. And we literally go through everything. There's some things where we can reject your ability to launch your boat. A fuel issue, you don't have PFDs, and so we've had this argument with people. What I mean by that, we suggest that they go to a store and buy those things that are required. So when you get on the water, if you call 911, it's hard for us to get out there, right? Compared to a street. So we want them to have all the required stuff that's safe operation. I also have somebody with a boater's education. Just remind them the direction of travel, speeds, no power loading on the docks, so you don't blow out all the rocks and cause issues with trailers. So a lot of it's just education.
And so you guys watch boat size and stuff like that too?
Yeah, everything. So you get the speed boats, the rooster tail boats. Long time ago, the city passed an ordinance, does not required unless they actually get a special permit. And then they have a safety crew and all these things out there. So,
I'd like to offer up my house as well.
no, yeah, if you do that. No,
I do
no,
live on Lake Silicon as well. I live down on the southern point, which we see a lot of problems down there with the wake because of the new boats that are created. They're designed to make a huge wake, which those wakes come in and hit, and kids are out swimming, and there's some really potentially dangerous situations that I've seen. And, I don't know if anybody's ever telling people, and I know it's their responsibility, but what does a citizen do when they see these dangerous situations? And
so that wake issue has come up previously. It's been an issue for the last I'd say 8 to 10 years. There's organization that represents wakeboard association, it's gone through the state, things like that. From our standpoint, it's not illegal, as long as you're going the speed limit. I can't control what the wake does. Ultimately, it's them. You could make a claim against them saying, hey, they damaged that. That's all civil. That's not a criminal thing.
Because there is an RCW code that says they're supposed to stay 200 feet.
Sure, sure.
Shoreline, which on our lake is very hard to do, because
Right.
it's very narrow, so
Right.
it's kind of, it's like a boiling pot down there.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I know. I saw you. I'll wait until
Not
that's
you.
all right. Yes, sir.
John, I remember you were a resource officer at Lakes High School a long time ago.
I still am, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So who polices the lake as far as alcohol and things of that nature?
Who polices it?
Yeah.
We do.
You do.
Yes, sir.
So you're out there on a regular basis, so.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
On the weekend. So what we do is, it's not, well, I'll just tell you. We pull up the, who can you drink legally on your boat?
Yeah.
Can you have open container on a boat?
No. But they do,
Does
especially
anybody?
coming out of.
Wait, who knows? Who knows?
Especially coming out
Yeah,
of
you can
JBL.
be under the influence.
You can have an out, you can open up, you can be out, you can drink while you're on operating. You can't be intoxicated, can't be DUI, voting while intoxicated. As you're aware, they're talking about lowering it to 0.05 instead of 0.8. So we do that as well. So at the beginning of July, usually 4th of July weekend, we do that same education campaign. We will talk to as many boat operators as possible. Have a designated operator. If you're drinking, make sure, once again, we want you to avoid the DUI. So that's one of our main emphasis, especially with the Sea-Doo. Really easy to pull up along a boat, have that conversation, identify people, maybe get offered a free hot dog or water, stuff like that. It's a great way to socialize with people. So, yeah, so we're out there and our goal is not to have those. Now, do we miss them? Sure, absolutely. Everybody, you could say even on the same roadways as we travel.
Yeah.
But our goal ultimately is to educate people, have responsibility, because out on the water, it's deadly. We've seen deaths, we've seen serious injury. Yes, ma'am.
I have 3 things. The first one is, how old or how young can you be to get a voter's permit?
So usually we see it about 12 years old.
Okay,
So that's where we see, but you could have somebody who's clearly got other skills, other talents, and they can take the test online. Do you remember how old your kids were when they took it?
14.
14? Yeah. Yeah. We usually see it around 12.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, when you said that, like, you have to see something in action.
Well, she,
Like for, something on the lake, does a video count where there's like a date and a timestamp and typically a location?
but so the other part is who's operating the vessel. You'd have to say, I'd have to say that person would be operating the vessel. So some of it's visual too.
Okay.
And the question there is, you're talking about a civil infraction as well. No different than you said, mentioned the distance from the shore. That's subjective. Because where was I standing and where the boat was and trying to measure that. So, and I say that because, like speeds, we have a speed limit on the lakes.
Okay.
And somebody says, they're really going really fast. Well, I mean, that's to your human eye, everything's fast. You stand on the side of the thing, a car goes by, you're like, oh my God, they're speeding. And the speed limit is 25 and they're going 27. But it's shut, I just say that based on experience. So,
And then the third thing, I don't know if a lot of people know this, and this is why I want to share it and clarify it, is at the end of each dock, there's an identifier, is that correct?
Yeah.
And typically, does every dock have that? So like when you're calling in an emergency, people can look at the end of the dock and see a blue tag.
it's a brown and white tag.
Brown and white.
Well, they might have changed the color, but brown and white. So if they call it South Sound 911, the operator would say, where are you at? They're gonna say American Lake. That doesn't really help us because American Lake's big, or even Lake Stillington. They're gonna ask whatever the dock number corresponds with addresses within South Sound 911. They know where to send the resources. He's gonna tell me it's changed now.
No,
But-
you're still tracking.
Yeah, so they tells them where the resource is, the closest house to the immediate question, but based on what we're deploying, they may go to like North American Lake Park to deploy like the small Zodiac and stuff like that. But yeah, that's really what it's for, to help us to identify. And there's some white buoys that are around the JBLM and PA hospital. Probably 10% of what used to be there, but those had numbers too, and that served the same purpose.
Then, is that the same for like ferry docks for, like out in the bay? or
Sound?
The sound, is there any type of like identifying markers if someone saw an emergency?
I don't think so.
So, couple things, the lake dock program that's ran by the fire department, it's voluntary. We had a captain years ago that was for pilots for small boat operators. He spearheaded, I think it was American Lake. So we mapped all the docks around and all the parcels and, just sequential numbering. It's voluntary, if we have a master list that we share with South Sound on all the lakes. We get phone calls a couple times a year, hey, I need to replace my dock number is worn out, and we direct them on standard, but it is voluntary. For Puget Sound, the fire departments, and Coast Guard have a regional response. So if your office still with them, you just give landmarks north of Ketron, however many feet, and South Sound 911 gets that in its regional response. Belmont, West Piers, Keep Peninsula, Anderson Island, Big Harbor, everybody's notified Coast Guard as a joint response to that location. Just because it's so hard to identify and sound your specific location. And depending on when, tide, current, that location's gonna change very quickly. So, years ago, Chief Tinsley worked with the local region to develop that response plan.
Anything else? So, does anybody else go out on American Lake? Anybody actually go fishing or anything out there? Beautiful lake. They spent a lot of money in Harrytop Park, North American Lake Park's all been redone. Should you go enjoy it? Really, it's very, some of the nicest areas and beautiful view of Mount Rainier. So, all right, thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
City council comments, Preston?
All right.
That was a great presentation, Sergeant Graders. Having grown up here, I've been on all the lakes and fished in most of them. Yeah. Couple of things, we've got our talking points for our council this month. The number of volunteer opportunities, we've got Parks Appreciation coming up in April. Farmers Market's gonna be starting in June and Summerfest in August this year. It's usually in July, they got bumped back due to the World Cup. And there's also opportunities for the Adopt a Street program, so you can contact City Hall to get involved with that. Couple of projects, so the Camp Murray Boat Launch Partnership, we've got ideally that will be more accessible for folks here. We're partnering with the folks at Camp Murray to improve that boat launch, to help kind of reduce the strain on Harrytop Park and American North Park, to have more access to people to the lake that we all share.
You can't worry about a gate, you gotta go.
No, you have to go through a gate to get down the water there.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's the gate to get into Camp Murray, but to the right of that, we all can have fun. Wards Lake Park, construction is completed. I stopped there on my way here tonight and it looks really good. So if you haven't had a chance to go out and see that, it's another beautiful gem in our city. It's a lot of acreage and really kind of a cool area. So if you have a chance to get out there. We are planning a city council retreat for our council members where we set our priorities for the year. And I can speak for myself, and I think other members of council that we're open to community input for what you think our priorities should be. And we can help roll that into our plan for the year. So I reach out to myself or other members of council for what you think we should focus on. Lots of construction still in work in the city. Nyanza Road hopefully will be wrapping up in March, but we'll see how far that extends.
We signed up on that.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So it's been a journey. But I'm looking forward to
Pothole Hill for a couple of days.
it was, yeah, but they just put new gravel over it yesterday.
Oh, good.
It's good. So that should wrap up hopefully in March. Construction on Interlochen off Washington Boulevard, I think continues, so that should be wrapping before too long. 112th at Lake Louise, construction is getting started. And then 112th between Bradley Lake Drive and Bridgeport Way, kind of by the high school there. They're putting in sidewalk so kids can get school more easily and all the way down to Center Station. So lots of good stuff in work. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Roundabouts, yeah, it's our national, or our city mascot is, roundabout.
That's still going more.
Well, we talked about a new one, for what, Mount Tacoma Drive area as a possibility.
No?
Yeah, that's right.
Who's to blame for that?
You can. No, we talked about whether it makes sense for that, as well, that goes through there. It's really the top 10 biggest accident spots in the city. And roundabout way is a way to kind of address that, but we have a lot of roundabouts, so, and we gotta make people learn how to use them. Anything else?
Justin, is this map still available for anybody that wants it, that talks about the upcoming projects like sidewalks? Where can anybody get this?
You'll find that on the city website,
On the city website?
and if you can't find it, you can reach out to myself or Mr. Russell over there.
And then is, your brook, still on the map for 2027? The railroad crossing there? I know that's-
Clover Creek, Drive,
Yeah,
crossing there at the Pack Highway,
yeah.
I believe it is, right, and it's a Sound Transit funded project, so.
I know that's been on this.
Oh, yeah, that's been a topic since I got here. And it's still very important because you can't get across it with a wheelchair or a stroller, which is important. This train's go cruising through there 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yep, we're aware.
Now I'd like to introduce, our city attorney, Heidi
Wachter, yes,
Wachter.
thank you. And, I want to thank Chris James because I was off and dashing on this mission to come to you about automated traffic cameras. And I didn't see fit to let her know until like, what was it, 2 or 3 days ago? And she managed to get my PowerPoint plugged in and all those good things. And so then yesterday, after Captain Johnson had been off for a while, I said, hey, guess what? I'm gonna go talk about automated cameras. And he was like, maybe I should be there. And he's right, because he has depth of information about it. So I only have about 4 slides, but what I'm going to do is first I'll tell you that this is because the council wants input, and I'm just gonna take a slight detour here. The city truly appreciates the people who volunteer to sit on these boards and commissions. We take the time that you put into it seriously, and I heard a little bit of discussion about how do I find out about something, or who do I ask? Ask any one of the staff here. That is why we are here. We are here to help you. It is not a nuisance, it's not an inconvenience, it's not some extra thing. And we do care that you feel like you have what you need to do your job. So if there's ever a question, ask any of us. What I will usually do is say, I don't know, but I'll find someone who does. And that should be like the worst answer you get. Everything after that should be a better answer, right? So don't ever hesitate to ask. The council wanted input on automated traffic cameras as a result of some legislation that came through in 2024. I'm going to start with a little bit about what our program is, what that legislation said, and what we initially thought, and where we're at now, and where your input will be valuable in helping us prioritize automated cameras for purposes of traffic enforcement. So that's just the cover slides. That doesn't need to count. We'll go to the next one.
Are you talking about lock?
No,
That's
lock
okay.
cameras, so you know, those are the license plate readers. And I appreciate that distinction because they're both in the headlines right now, right? And they're both down at the legislature. Block is a whole nother story for another day. If you'd like to come, have me come and present on that. Block out about 2 hours, and it will be a tale with happiness, sadness, and no good ending. So I will be happy to come back and talk about that. The automated cameras, and interestingly enough, the city of Lakewood was a pilot program on automated cameras, and this is the red light cameras, school zone cameras, now authorized for speeding. And so by December 5th of 2005, when the state legislature said that we could do programs, we'd already been the pilot program. And so we're like, yeah, we can do this now, and we have our cameras. And this map, which you can barely see, is the original places. Some of you may be very familiar with where these cameras are. I know I got caught by one of these cameras several years ago, going to a council meeting. So 2 school zone cameras, one at 5405 Silicon Boulevard westbound and 9904 Bradley Lake Drive southbound, and 6 red light cameras, Bridgeport and San Francisco Avenue northbound and southbound, Silicon Boulevard and Phillips Road eastbound and westbound, South Tacoma Way and SR 512. That one is unbelievably active. That's northbound and southbound. This program generates over 20,000 tickets a year. And so if you don't know how those cameras work, when you get one of these tickets, your options are you could contest it, or you can have someone sign an affidavit saying that they were not driving the car, because it goes to whoever the licensed driver is. And it doesn't go on your insurance. So people tend to pay them and move on with their life. So our program was rolling along and life was good. And then we get to legislation in 2024. And basically what that law said was, you can keep what you have. We have our program, it's generating a lot of tickets, and all of the proceeds from those tickets goes into our general fund. The general fund in the city pays for things like police services, legal services, pays for your camera program. All of that stuff gets paid for out of the general fund. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, and this is gonna come back into the story in a minute, we have a roads program that is almost exclusively supported by grants. And only certain kinds of roads qualify for grant money. So everything you see going on out there is because we qualified for a transportation grant of some sort. Could be federal, could be state, but that's how we're getting it done. We don't necessarily know where we're gonna get the money to do roads that aren't as interesting to the grant makers, right? So that's going on in the meantime. So when the legislation comes out from the state, they say, if you add per the math of what our system looks like, if you add one location, that will put you in a new category. You are no longer the protected program. You are now subject to certain restrictions on the revenue. You're allowed to pay for your camera program, which fine, okay. After that, after you've paid for your program, the money can only be used for, and it's got all kinds of fancy words, but basically road improvements, which, as I've just explained, is what we actually need money for, is road improvements. So in 2024, when we first looked at it, we were like, oh no, the state's gonna restrict our money. When we took a second look at it more recently, we said, but that's really what we need the money for, right? So what we then looked at is, if you can go to the next slide, I'm sorry, she told me to use this. And which is classic for
The
me.
third slide now.
Yeah, the second slide. So in the second slide, what you're gonna see is, and this is thank you to Captain Johnson, he has added a speed zone near Clover Park, Lakes, Harrison Prep, Putlock, Lockburn, Thomas Middle School, Custer Elementary, Dower Elementary, Park Lodge, Tillicum Elementary, Lake Louise Elementary, Oak Brook Elementary, Bradley Lake, and then several of our parks, including, I think, the Blueberry Park. The Blueberry Park, Fort Silicon Park, Kiwanis Park, Oak Brook Park, Ponders Park, Silly Lake Park, South Puget Puget Sound Wildlife Area, Wards Lake Park, and Washington Park. So basically places where there might be kids and some reasonable amount of foot traffic. The council discussed this. There were comments on how this changes sort of the atmosphere in Lakewood. Everybody's gonna have to slow down. Maybe it'll be more like Fur Crest where you can't go very fast without assurances of getting a ticket. But then the question from the council was, is this a good prioritization of where we're putting the cameras, parks and schools? And so they want your feedback. If I tell them your feedback, they will hear me. If I tell them my opinion, they won't hear me. So I need your feedback to take back to them. And if you don't sort of pony up, I'm not shy about calling on each of you to get your input. I really do need to take something back to the council. And I see Tristan sort of smirking, he's like, yes, we want this. So, any opinions on whether that's a good prioritization of our cameras? Yes, thank you, I heard.
So after school, so I go to nursing prep. You said there was a camera installment. So after school, I always go to the job center. And then from the job center, I usually go to Kiwanis.
Okay,
And so we got for the cameras there to regulate the traffic.
yeah, does that make you feel safer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. All right, so far we have some support for that. Do we have other people thinking there are other priorities that make more sense?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't go in for Chris except by mistake. It's the poor guys, I was working for a while and often they're organized to do fire and I mean, they do everything. And they're bored. They love to do a jurisdictional thing with Tacoma coming down Orchard.
Right.
Or to get off, and I think it drops a veil of anticipation, if not tension, that puts me off. I've been driving for a lot of years.
And in Fircrest, they don't use cameras, they use actual officers to
Yeah.
pull you over, so do you feel any differently with cameras?
Oh, yeah, I feel it's much less satisfactory to me. I'll drive less. I
Okay,
won't drive safer so much as less, because Tacoma just released that, what, $1 million they got 1 month? And those new cameras they put everywhere. Oh gee, well, first thing I heard in my mind was, okay, so we don't have any officers out there doing real work. We don't have to listen to any debates in court for the most part. And we don't have we kind of entice you by, you don't have to get off work to go be heard. And I think it's the reverse. But it may have to be. I think it's the general demise of the quality of our culture. I go off 74th to go to the freeway often. And I can tell you how many people don't even slow down below 20 on a red light to roll across to get to the interstate. I mean, it's teams of them going down through there. So it's very habits, but I don't know how you turn the behavior. But the behavior has been mentored to be tolerant of and give excuses and get another machine. And then I heard the AI bots have got on the internet and they've made their own social website without a human being participating. And I hear electricity doing all this stuff. Some of you remember, we've been here a long time, but when they put the first of those new traffic lights up in Lakewood, and everybody wanted to know what was those cameras were up on those thin rods that was looking down. You got the speed cops and you're surveilling those.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, I didn't take them apart to see, but I was told it was to detect traffic so they would know when to activate the light. I'm gonna roll with that until somebody shows me it's different, but
Can I ask, maybe this is an idea? Yeah. Youth council, you guys brought up that you feel the most unsafe at bus stops. Is there intersections or areas that would be good feedback for her to do?
yeah, I heard you say Harrison Prep and Kiwanis Park. Are there some other places where is the safety associated with the speeds that people are going by?
Yeah, sometimes like the crosswalks around Townsend, they go fast. And by Lockburn and Harrison Prep, like over there.
But it seems like to me at some point that somebody told us that, I think it was by state law, that those cameras could only be like in hospital zones, school zones. I didn't know parks were involved, or was that,
That's part of what got added, but you got a good catch there because hospital zones were just added in that 2024 legislation. So you have a good ear for the news. That was absolutely added. Is your sense that hospitals should be prioritized along with schools and parks?
well, I know one of our officers that been here when they tracked them and said that they thought people going over 70 miles an hour passing whatever. I would say that's a little excessive.
Okay.
Is this something, I had a visit from, a council member, and he did tell me that he was putting this on the work plan for our particular group. Is this something, and what they would like us to do as a committee is to prioritize.
Is that Councilmember Branstetter?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the one who sent me. So if I'm doing a bad job at that.
No, can we take some time to talk about, like, with youth council and other committee members about, like, some areas, or do you need that information?
That would be,
What I was gonna actually recommend is you've had the introduction to this tonight. Jeff, I can probably provide a list of the priority locations. Have that in the next agenda, maybe put it on an agenda item, so everyone can come back knowing that.
Yeah.
It's on the
And then have a vote and a recommendation of, the prioritized list going down based on the feedback. And we have some time to.
Yeah.
Plan for it before the next meeting and then make an official recommendation.
yes,
Okay.
thank you. That way your meetings night doesn't run so late. Yes.
Yeah, I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this would work, but I'm just gonna bring it out, throw it out there to you. So everybody knows about the Colonial Center, right? Okay. So my concern is, I don't know if there's cameras that could be put there. I know that, it is a short stretch, but there's a lot of activity that occurs right there. There is, business owners that I've spoken to, when they're backing out, specifically the salon, I've spoken to them, and also at Bestress, and when they're backing up, there are cars that are speeding through there that have almost hit them. And this is, I've seen it with my own eyes many, many times. There's lots of pedestrians that walk around the Colonial Center during the day. And you know that the cars speed over there, they do donuts, they, vandalize the brick pavers that are there that you guys spent a lot of money on are being ruined. So I'm just wondering, could one be put there in addition to Whitman Avenue, that long stretch on Whitman Avenue that goes towards Silicon? They come from Colonial and they speed down that long, long road going towards that light where they recently just did that four-way stop.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which street that is, but you kind of know what I'm talking
I
about.
kind of know what you're talking about, and I will tell you that I consider that to be a concern that we have heard about and a concern that we care about, and I don't think it's any shock to Captain Johnson. So we hear you and we will follow up on it. I don't want us to put that in the same basket as prioritizing speed cameras, because I think you're talking about more than just
Okay.
people speeding. You're talking about destruction of property. and don't-
Besides the Colonial Center though, Whitman Avenue is a problem area where people speed through the light. I have new neighbors that have just bought a home right on Whitman Avenue who even regret purchasing their home.
Right.
It's just extremely so loud. And you have the Best Western who's there too. Just consider Whitman
Right.
at least that long stretch, even if it's not Colonial Center.
Okay, well, it sounds like if you're talking speed cameras,
I wrote it down, we'll put that on that
she,
yeah.
she saw where I was going, she saw how long it was gonna take, and she said, why don't you leave us alone for a while and we'll bring you back the list.
I should have gone.
And say where I'm going.
I have
Thank you.
one thing to add as far as location, because we had public comment about it. So in front of Cabrini,
Yeah.
we've only listed public schools, but
Mhm.
there is decent amount of speeding there along 108. As the speed limit drops to 25 and the 20 at the school. Perhaps doing that.
One thing I will tell you, as far as the input goes, one of the things that I would expect Captain Johnson will be able to do when he sees your list. There will be the areas that you care deeply about. There will also be the areas where we have some actual data. So it may be that there are places where the speeding at a certain time of day is horrific and then it's dead the rest of the time. And there's some other place where the speeding is constant and of concern. So we will try to harmonize the data with the feedback.
And you said revenue can only go towards transportation projects, not towards public safety.
No, it's not towards public safety. The only good news in the revenue piece is that we're allowed to supplant. So in other words, where we might have been spending money on roads already, we could use this money instead.
Right.
But it's not public safety money. It is specifically traffic money, and it also is to be used proportionally in neighborhoods in the city with certain demographics. And I've had, thanks to Jeff Gum and Martha Larkin, who do our HUD money projects in the city of Lakewood, they have helped me understand the census tracts, which are not as easy to understand as I thought they would be. But we're making sure that we can do the proportionality where we're putting the road work throughout the city and in the places that qualify.
I have a question about the public safety thing related to the road work. So if there's a certain situation with a road or a bridge or something that is deteriorating, that could be a public safety issue.
Arguably, it's not necessarily public safety, LPD public safety, it's public safety, public works. Question, and we could certainly have them come to one of your meetings if you want to talk about road safety.
Not necessarily police.
Yeah.
So,
If there are issues of concern to this body, let your folks know that are here all the time, let us know, we will do what we can to give you what you need.
And can these flags go out to our public safety
Oh, yeah.
advisory committee?
Yeah, and if you want a different map, if you're like, oh my gosh, you put so many things on there, I can't even tell what's going on. If you want us to work overlays or something like that, we're happy to do it.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Are you able to capture information about where these places are, where people are speeding or
That's,
they're doing other things?
we can tell you.
Just a couple of notes. This is not an exhaustive list. So when you take a look up close and you say, well, why isn't Washington down to Tillicum Elementary listed? Or but some of these are just, this is minor arterials or larger. And we can build from there. There's room to grow the system if that's what we want. But I wanted to give at the city manager and the city council what it would look like to have a basic system that covers our busier streets. And there's room to grow. They have some mobile models, and not mobile as in moving them every day. But there are models of this where we could put it in a place for 90 days and then relocate it to a Whitman to a smaller street. But I think it is a good point to offset. I get it. Nobody wants robot overlords writing us tickets. I hear you. But also it does change the temperature in the city. And if you are a street racing group that wants to come hang out on Motor Avenue, but you know that you're going to pass 5 points where you can get a ticket between Bridgeport and Motor Avenue. And you end up with 5 different $120 tickets mailed to your house because you pass through, it's probably going to change your behavior and maybe your destination. So this is a bigger presence than the most, even if our 4 motor officers were out 24 hours a day writing tickets, this is a 24-hour presence, 24-hour day presence in all these locations. It's worth looking at. And then the last thing I'll mention is that we're in a brave new world of something called telemetrics, which means that when you sign up for your insurance company and they send you that little dongle and say, this won't affect your rates, but it'll help us to know you're out driving fast. Or when you agree to Google's use and you use their maps so you can see where things are fast or slow, well, guess what? They know a lot about you, right down to when you take a phone call and you're still driving 40 miles an hour. And they pass that, it's not associated with you, but that information is then collected and can be accessed by law enforcement to show that exactly how much traffic's on Whitman Avenue and exactly who's on their phone when they're on Whitman Avenue and how much volume there is and the speeds they're going. So we're going to be able to more accurately deploy, whether it's an officer writing tickets or an automated system. Things are rapidly changing. And we're going to be able to address these in real time. So it won't just be based on a neighbor that feels like visiting their street. We'll be able to tell you exactly how busy it is and use our resources well. So I anticipate some big changes with that.
Would this actually change the city's ability to move like a traffic officer into some other place? Because-
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that's what happens is we'll get a complaint. And then we'll have one of our motor officers sit and observe, and in 4 hours' time, they'll write 2 tickets. Everybody's very aware of the problems in their neighborhood, and everybody lives in their neighborhood. There's a lot of neighborhoods in Lakewood, so the best way we can deploy the resources, this new information is going to help us.
So if there's anything you need going forward towards this that you think any of us can be helpful with, maps, information provided ahead of time or at your meeting, or whatever, let us know. Council is interested in your feedback, and our job is to make sure you have the tools you need to give that feedback.
I think the 2 things, just to know and put it out there to put on to the agenda is, we're talking about 25 to 30 cameras, is that correct? Or what's the number that we need to place?
This wasn't even recommendations of how to deploy it. I just wanted the council to have all information available and to consider all the minor arterials or larger.
And the main question really is prioritization.
Right.
So where do you think that they would be most important to have? Where do you think they would be less important to have? And then what is the general sense between I feel safer if there are cameras and I'm concerned about robot overlords? There's somewhere on that span that you have a sense of what you're doing.
As we speak, there are speed tubes in a number of these locations actually getting real-time data, and when the decision is made, you will know exactly what areas are actually getting speeders and high volume. And which ones, you know, so we'll have a lot of information.
And then, timeline, like when does council or you want this information? Like, is this something that we should put on our next agenda to really focus on, or? what?
I would appreciate that to keep it moving and keep it on the floor. Because part of what's going to happen for the city in the coming year is that we're going to enter into a budget cycle. And it's not so much that this is about revenue, but we need to know whether our program is going to be paid for and whether or not there's the ability to free up officers, you know, that sort of thing. It does have an impact on the budget, even if that's not the real reason for doing it. So I would want you to be moving as quickly as you can. That being said, you can't operate without the information that you need. So you should let us know as soon as you can what you need to be effective and efficient with your time on it.
As far as technology goes, does the police department utilize drones at all?
We do, our patrol level especially, so we actually, every patrol squad has a drone operator, and I'm proud of this, I'm gonna pitch it. It was actually funded by a just recently retired detective who became a regional expert, and by teaching the class, was able to raise the funds to buy the drones. And I heard one deploy today, last night when we had a robbery. And they were actively being able to look for somebody who's using clear.
Yeah, that's good to know.
But we don't use the drones for speed. Speed
We use them to enforce around the roundabouts.
Yeah. But would hang out right there, right?
Well, I was glad to see, still the kind of Lakewood Drive that, we're gonna have one in Blueberry Park and also by Harrison, because there's a camera going east and west, but there's not one going north and south, and being guilty, setting it to light, and you forget that's the school zone, the lights on and everything else, so you can go 65 miles an hour past Harrison
Right.
in the bus stop, and I could never quite understand why they didn't put them that, because that school zone goes past Lakewood Hardwood.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, all the traffic that comes out of Harrison up there on the Lakewood Drive.
Well, we appreciate the feedback and we look forward to more of the same as you work on this.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Okay, Dobbs, you're up.
It's hard to believe that's already February.
I know.
Last game was in December, so we're 2 months in. Last year, I think did report out that Chief Sharp's retiring. The Board of Fire Commissioners selected Chief Ryan McGrady to take his place. That transition's they've been working hand in hand sort of to pass off, getting Chief McGrady ready to take the reins. So probably here in a few weeks, it'll become official. That creates backfill in that position. So that was sort of our big news going into the end of the year. Unfortunately, in December, we did have a fire fatality at the end of the year. And we lost 2 people in that fire. It was very unfortunate. The cause of the fire, we listed as undetermined. Unfortunately, when we have really bad fires in the area of origin burnt up, so is our evidence. But from what we gathered, we had 4 investigators out there working that fire, that it most probably was, you know, accidental. We don't believe there was only malicious intent to it. And it most likely was related to just overloaded and improper use of electrical wiring in older homes. And unfortunately, 2 elderly occupants were not able to get out. The cops to their injuries suffered. So that was our end of our year. So that was very unfortunate. The community really rallied, the family rallied around that home. It's always good to see the support that the neighborhood really that came out to support that thing. Going into the beginning of the year, we also suffered a cyber attack just before that, and we were without our computer network for about a month as we worked with experts to clean our system up, isolate our system, and then fortunately, our IT division 2 years ago started creating offline backups. So we had a backup from the day before the incident. Those still takes time to wash the system and restore it. So we didn't lose really any substantial data and we're able to restore it. We were just without emails for a month, which actually, you know, in hindsight, not the worst thing. Not kidding. When I logged back into my email server, I had 8 emails that I had to sort through. That was probably the most painful part of the recovery. But the new year starting off well, and we're doing a lot of good work. And one of the big things for the fire department is we're standing up another ladder company in the district, which we purchased last year. So we'll have 2 ladder companies in the district to respond, because the district, as you see as you drive around, is getting taller. There's not a lot of space to build out, but there's still space to build up. And so we have multiple 6-story buildings going up. While they're well protected in their design, their building design, with pressurized stairwells and elevator shafts, sprinkler systems, alarms, and standpipes, we still prepare for, you know, the rescue operations. So having 2 ladders is a great resource for the district.
Where are your ladders going to be located?
One's gonna be south end, one's gonna be north end. So, of course, our district covers Lakewood, University Place, and then we contract with Silicon. So it's distribution of resources. So having one position at both ends of the district is just the best utilization of resources. We're also limited on station space. The other big news is, we are working on purchasing a parcel. We've been working to get a parcel somewhere in between our station here and our University Place station, somewhere in the middle, because it's sort of a gap, and it's taken us about 4 years to finally find a parcel that somebody's willing to sell us. And so we're working on that agreement, and that, of course, that takes a lot of just due diligence to make sure the parcel's going to work for our needs. So far, knock on Lakewood, everything's going in the right direction. As that goes through, we're going to be looking at building another station there, because we continue to grow as an agency and add on staffing over the years. But since merger, we haven't added any space. So we're limited on office space, and we're getting limited on where we can park vehicles. But we're working on plans to address that soon, hopefully.
I have a question. Is there a firefighter youth academy coming up?
There typically will be, with our outage, we're sort of behind the curve on planning. We're just meeting with our prevention division, just this week, trying to get that spooled up. We're kind of behind the curve. But typically we do run that once a year, and so, through our retention and recruitment committee. So I believe we should hold it, but I'll follow back up with.
Okay. And then there's another free program that West Pierce puts on for anybody sitting here. I believe 14 is the youngest age, and it's called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. And basically, it's how to care for oneself in the event of a natural disaster or something catastrophic, and then how to take care of your neighbors. And I know they put that on in March and in September. I know March is full already, but if it's something that you're interested in, 14 is the youngest age with parent approval. And so just kind of put that on the calendar for like August time to sign up for that, because that's a really, really beneficial program that West Pierce puts on.
So the community emergency, thank you Mary, for that response team, really is designed, you know, one, self-care, because it's when the bigger earthquake happens or the natural disaster occurs, we're going to be tensed, and we're going to prioritize response to the most critical incidents first. And we're limited on resources. We have a lot of resources. And day to day, we can handle most of the priorities. And multiple events very easily, especially with mutual aid. But if we have a regional event, all of our mutual aid partners are gonna be taxed, we're gonna be taxed. So, your neighborhood, you know, you may have during the earthquake, your neighbor's home may collapse and someone could have burned the leg. It's gonna take us a while to get there. So it's really designed to start teaching those preparedness, before that event. How do you do basic first aid? How do you do basic rescue? How do you, lift a wall safely, cribbing, as a team? So that, you can do a safe lane, get somebody out from underneath something that fell on them. It's a really good program. We've ran it for,
You guys are at class 50 for.
it's nearly 20 years. I used to be an instructor in it, and it's great community participation. And then we utilize those certain members to do, to help out of our events and, do, community outreach. They're a great community. They go down to the emergency food network and do reboxing, give back to the, community and help the community. Just a great group of people. And if you're interested in information, contact with Rachel Adler. She's our coordinator for them. She does a phenomenal job teaching this class.
That's a great way to get volunteer hours too. My son just went through it and, those hours count. Thank you.
Want to give a shout out to the social media team too. That's Chris.
Emily, we hired a young lady. She is phenomenal. She studied down in California. Was a news anchor in Colorado. We were looking for a communication manager, and she came on. She was very impressive, and she just continues to raise the bar on, just finding new ways to communicate with our public and what we do, and making it fun.
Good job.
Yeah, you can't have it.
Lakewood Police.
Yes, so I passed around all of our most recent crime numbers. I think all of you guys have a copy. Let's look to kind of update you on where we are. As you know, we finished last year, with crime reduction in every category. On Monday, we do a presentation for the city council, for our fourth quarter, which basically covers the entire year for 2025. We showed pretty much double-digit reduction in all categories. Some of them that were notable were our Achilles heel for the past few years has been our stolen vehicles. Last year, we managed to get it down 67%. This year, we managed another 53%. And we still show some reduction right now of another 23% as of today. So our officers have been doing a great job. They've adapted very well to the various technologies that we've added, with the flock cameras and also the LPRs in the vehicles and several things that we've been working on to improve their quality of work in the vehicles that we have. So fortunately, things have been coming together. Our greatest part that the city should celebrate, and we're celebrating, is the fact that we finished 2025 with 0 homicides. And that's a great accomplishment for the city. Hasn't occurred in history. It's something that we hope we continue to carry on into 2026 if we're fortunate. Anybody have any questions about anything? Yes, sir.
Moment in the news cycle, and almost every day about immigration.
Yes.
And do you think ICE will come visit our signal city? And then how will we react to it?
So first, I have no control over what ICE does or where they visit or anything else like that. Even if they do, we continue with business as well as usual. I don't anticipate any issues at this point, but there's no way that we will know what ICE is going to do. But for us, we don't, for the Washington state law, we don't become involved in immigration.
About public safety stuff.
Yes, In fact, we had a meeting today with all of the, chiefs, et cetera, and actual parties within, Pierce County, talking about our response and crime, control of, crowds and things of that nature. So we're working on crowd control and things of that nature. So so far, we've not had any issues and we've opened space actually. Yes, sir. And I wanted to give you an update because you were talking about Motor Avenue. We've done a lot of work on Motor Avenue and working with the business owner there. We put up signs already. And so our officers know to continue to do follow up in that area. And also we have our patrol forces logging anytime we have major issues or problems. So we haven't had anything major here within the past month or two. So we're hoping to stay on top of that and hopefully you'll see some changes in that area.
Yeah, I've been kind of clocking them coming twice or 3 times a month.
Yes,
now.
yes.
And it seems that they found a spot where they come for about an hour and a half,
Mhm.
and they just basically raise hell for about an hour, hour and a half, and then they leave before like 8:39. So, it's almost like they found this sweet spot or like a workaround
Right.
where they don't stay. So, I anticipate with the weather getting warmer, they may start coming. So I
Just
do-
continue to work with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You guys have a youth academy, Lakewood, or not youth, I'm sorry, Lakewood Police Citizens Academy.
Yes.
When does your registration open for that?
So it usually opens around May and the class is usually in June.
Okay, great.
We usually put it on our social media page to encourage people to come. We usually have about, I'd say 22 spots for that position. And so it's usually pretty well attended.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Youth Council, I want to, recognize Ivan. I promised you guys letters if you guys, committed to volunteering, so please let us know your hours of attendance in these meetings. But this is a letter for Truck and Tractor Day that basically documents your volunteer time there, okay? Can you pass that down for me? And, oh, and I also wanted to say, I like to just say this in the beginning, please tell your friends in the event that you could call 911. You know, if you feel unsafe to do so, that you can also text 911. I don't think a lot of people know that, so I like to definitely tell people about that. Any comments? Nothing? What's going on? I know our meeting is running pretty long. Tonight, there is some items of unfinished business, some other things just to keep on the top of our minds as we go into other meetings. When I did talk to council, one of the suggestions was traffic circle education. I'm not too sure what that looks like for us as a committee, but I think it's something that we could talk about to, you know, maybe brainstorm how we could help the public with traffic circle. James, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Did you?
Traffic circle education.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Just a bit?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we discussed it a couple of times, and we also had asked Chief about what we could do or what type of assistance we could give. He recommended that the committee take on some type of aspect, and so we said we'd get with Officer Porsche Christina helped us link up with that. And we discussed with Officer Porsche how we could come up with some type of way to get information out to people to better work in traffic circles. Well, I say better work because traffic circles, some of the traffic is it's a problem in some cases. When you do a little research on it, it's really just a couple of definitions, and people do know which way to go for the most part, but uh, in the roundabouts, the RCW has a good definition of what to do in traffic circles. The driver's handbook has information in it. It's kind of confusing to read. And then there's a little more information in the traffic circle, well, on the state website that talks about what you do with the traffic circle. So it's just a matter of uh, talking it over, I guess, as some of the committee groups, subcommittee groups, and then coming up with something that's clear that we might be able to get posted on social media to help with the understanding of issues with negotiating traffic circles.
How big of a issue is this? Do we know how many accidents we've had in roundabouts in the last 6 months?
The accidents greatly reduced. I couldn't give you the exact number, we're not. Where there was an intersection, now that there's a traffic circle, there's not collisions, just frustrations. People get frustrated.
Accidents went way down. The accidents went way down.
So,
Yeah.
what are we trying to fix?
We had a 10% reduction in traffic collisions last year.
Trying to stop the person that comes to a dead stop in front of you when nobody else is saying.
That was the thing, I think people negotiate. It's so.
Yeah, right of way is one of the big issues, just people. Okay, do I need to say any more on that, or we'll talk about it further, I guess, in a little subgroup?
I think Chief was gonna say something about it.
So the whole purpose of this item was for you guys to come together about a PSA regarding the speed in the school zones as well as traffic. So, very simple PSA on having folks slow down, monitoring speed within the city. That's what this is all about. It wasn't just necessary with traffic circles. It just depends on which items you chose from the list of items for the city.
Okay, forgive me, because I work where there's a lot of acronyms, PSA, public service announcement. Okay, I'm like.
Oh, sorry.
Can I add a suggestion maybe while we're talking about public service announcements to put on websites? Maybe it'd be a good idea since there's so much construction going on. To remind people of some techniques that are allowed, like the zipper technique. I see a lot of frustration when, people are trying to merge in, and maybe it'd be a good reminder.
Do we know if our drivers companies, people that teach people how to drive, or they have roundabout handling in those?
That's why I say that there's an issue with just the 3 documents that are out there floating out there from the driver's manual, the pamphlet where people have to read and use when they take the driver's test, and then the RCW. RCW is pretty clear, but doesn't say much at all. And then there is another document that floats out there. I've got them all on a slide here. It's just a matter of taking a look at those and then, I guess, forming the right public service announcement as this group, as the Public Safety Advisory Committee, if we're doing that, and getting it on a website somewhere, or I guess the point was for the Public Safety Advisory Committee to become a little more involved in public service announcements, at least from their perspective. Is that it, Chief?
Yes, sir.
He
Okay.
said yes.
Yes.
He's all the way in the back. He said yes.
Okay. I have a hard time hearing because it's not coming across well. I can't hear everyone. So, all right, I'll be quiet then, unless there's a question.
Thanks, James. Ray, you're almost up, but I'm just gonna say before you, it looks like our next meeting for, Public Safety Advisory is gonna be scheduled for April 1st. It's not a joke. And then before we adjourn, Ray, did you want to talk about apparel some more?
I thought I was requested to. These are examples of articles that can be created, although you've had ball teams or cheerleader clubs, whatever, you embroider something. So I mentioned, okay, I spent most of my life in uniform, retired from the Army, I was in Boy Scouts, I was in law enforcement for a while, so I'm compatible with uniforms, but I found early challenges. I've been here, I think Heidi became a lawyer here in the city when I came one. I think I'm the grandfather of the group now. And there was pleas for us to see if we could bring the community's opinions and concerns forward via fun. This is good, it's a good way to do stuff. If you can ever get the starting material in, you get somebody populate that seat when they're unhappy, you come and sign up to speak. But so I went out and I started wandering around. I wandered around over here when they opened up the McGavin Center for community stuff, and walk around in my nice clothes and say, I'm on the Public Safety Advisory Committee, and I'd love to tap into anything you'd like to know about the city that I can find out. I'll be a good, messenger back and forth. And, half of them were walking away wondering if I was selling insurance, and they didn't want to be bothered. I found other success, even with CERT. I do a lot of stuff with CERT. I have my CERT paraphernalia, which makes me look like I belong. I think I do. And I have others. So I kept saying, why don't we do something? And when I showed up, I said, hats are often good. We do a lot of summer fair weather things around here. T-shirts or these kinds of shirts. And it just never took. And part of it was pay on your own, city gets some. And as it evolved, what would it look like? So with your predecessor, eventually John Caulfield's regime approved minor modifications to the emblem. And I had a test run of these done because I was tired of being anonymous when I was out there trying to find out what was going on. So I did these myself. I just paid for them. Upon further looking, as we got past COVID, there might have been interest again. So I first didn't know if the guy that made these, he made a file. You young people know all this stuff. So there's a file that has all this on it. I didn't know if he still had. And you can modify it. So it does have it. He's still in business and quality embroidery. And he's willing to do something that is economical to him. Mine was a loss of loser because I got 3 pieces and that was done. So somehow you have to kind of stoke the fire to see if there's enough interest. And then there probably has to be a decision as to whether the city wants to be the holder of some wardrobing, maybe vests. A lot of things I do, people say, here's the vest. If you do the road cleaning, they get you the vest. So vests might be way to go in various sizes, and people check them out and go do their thing. You get your own on your own expenses. You come up with an idea that's not one of those two. Right now, I'm just kind of a funnel of possibilities that could be done. And it's the usual garments. You can get about anything. If you've seen somebody have this embroidery on something, they can do it. But they gave me a quote list. It was just to pretend me. I said, I had no idea if there's going to be interest. I had no idea how many people. I had no idea if it's 15 sizes or 3 sizes. So I've got literature here, which I'll leave with our distinguished chairman. And it's got prices for 4 possibilities, which are 3 ones I got: the hat, the jacket, and the shirt, and a suggested minimum quantity and a cost. And I put a little star by the vest thing because it started looking to me that was a pretty good idea. But if you show up someplace and you're unknown, or you show up someplace a whole lot of people got things on. If you go Summerfest, you got multi-chairs, got their gizmos and all this stuff. So I guess the group has to figure out how much they want to get into this, or they're not interested at all. But this is the most current information, and the pricing is it's usually quantity of 8 or higher on some of these. So there's some sets of what the garments will look like. And I suspect it's pockets of cells, our cells, and maybe suggested the chairman that at least a vote of interest may have to take place now or at the next meeting. Remember, we're every 2 months. So some of these meetings may go past my lifespan, so work on that. I've become time conscious now. I got 10 grandkids. And so I'm happy to point this out. I'm just pleased to find the guy was still in business doing his stuff. He does good work. And he probably could be pliable in some limiting ways, but not the ways that would cost him more than to be involved with it. Any questions about the potential? I think most of it depends on how much interest is it, and how many of you actually want to get out in the public and try to convince somebody you're already listening to or be heard. There's a lot of people in the city who don't understand. If they get a good messenger that sends both ways, it's valuable. You can go and talk to somebody confidently. I've heard some of the responses you've given on behalf of the police department, that it's, the confidence is there. They know if they give you some information, it's gonna move up, and they know they're gonna hear from you. Same thing with the fire department. So the city's got a pretty good reputation about that at this level. I just don't know how, where the rubber meets the road, as they say. You know, we can beat the bush a little bit, talk a little more informally.
Doug, did you have comments?
Yeah, so I know this came up at the last meeting, actually came up at the meeting beforehand, and Councilmember Marcella asked about it. Thought that there was money appropriated. And there was money appropriated for the Public Service Advisory Board for article closing, so yeah, what I'd say is if the body wants to do it, just identify what piece of them. Okay. That sounds like there's a vendor kind of identified.
I mean, they're nearby, they're pretty quick. It's mostly what can everybody agree on or interested in and stay within the loose definitions of the city, representing the city. Our distinguished legal advisor there will tell us what we can and can't talk about.
Can I throw one more option in there? This like this kind of a badge, also, that you can just kind of put on anything you're wearing, like a simple thing to do quickly while we're deliberating on it.
The only thing I would advise is to be uniform. You know, and amongst yourselves that way, there is that consistency of what you're presenting out in the public. You know, if you want to wear a vest, do a name tag, vest and a name tag, just have some consistency about it, for the kind of create that messaging out. And then make that decision and figure out and coordinate if you
Right, I say let's put this to, like, let's talk about it more on our next agenda, and then maybe we can get something going from there. Does that sound good?
I can work with water. I did ask for a possibility of an ID card. Because I, you know, CERT gives me a card and American Red Cross gives me a card, and sometimes that helps. And the chief acquiesced to it and created one. Then he came and, you know, was handing them out, and he got to me, he says, "Ray, this clearly does not give you permission to carry a gun or make arrests." So keep in mind, we have very limited role to represent the city.
We're about 2 minutes away from 7. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Have a great training.
All in favor, say aye. Thank you.
Bye.